Sunrise Daily was still keeping that theme moving forward. Now we've got Dr. Peter Omo-Ijade. He tells us the Nigerian name. Thanks for coming with us this morning. He's an organizational and development expert. Thank you again. Now, you've heard this speech several times. Also, you've read it as well. Let me get your impression, first of all, in terms of how does this speech resonate with you?
Okay, the speech, to a large extent, took excursion into the past. The president hammered on our past glory as a nation, our exploit. Then, broadly, he attempted going into what the government will want to achieve. But clearly, there is no clear connection between strategy and structures.
How do you mean? Is he supposed to have spelled out the strategy in that speech?
Yes, to some extent, that will give us some insight into the ability of the government to deliver on what they want to achieve. It will give us a little insight.
So what role then, or isn't the ARGP sufficient for you? Because if they say they've been mapping out plans, those are their projections in terms of what they want to achieve. So what if people say, look, he's predicating his speech based on the projections of the ARGP? Would that be out of place?
Yes, because we judge the government based on their past utterances and actions. We should not be carried away by mere sophistry. The people want to see action. This is the second time. So we should not be carried away by the content of the speech by the president. But if we are given some insight into the strategy that they want to use to carry out their vision, then we say yes, there is something to hope for.
So when you talk about that, giving strategy into their insight, what would you expect? What were you expecting?
Yes, one thing which I expect the government to do at this time is to build in some element of urgency. In any change process, there must be element of urgency. And another thing is highly fundamental, and that is building in of quick wins. We have not seen that in the past 4 years.
What would the quick wins be now at this stage?
We are looking at, in the past, the government lay a lot of emphasis on economic growth. We talk in terms of statistics. But the issue of economic development, which should reflect in the living standard of the people, receive very scant attention. And that should be the focus.
Okay, now that you say that we should be in a hurry, there have to be some quick wins.
Yes.
Well, he will need the ministers to help him, of course, push these plans of theirs forward.
Before we go to those ministers, I'm interested in what you think. You said the data doesn't seem to match the reality of what's on ground now. What are the things that would have been good indices for you?
Okay, what we have to look at is that, you see, when you look at the speech by the president, he talked about the dawn of democracy. That, to some extent, is making the people the common denominator in the definition of our democracy. Presently, democracy is ill-defined in Nigeria. Supposed to be the government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Isn't that what it is?
No. It's government of them, by them, and for them. Because if we are crafting the vision And we have the people in mind. The people, their aspiration should define the direction of the government. You cannot shave a man's hair in his absence.
So what are the aspirations of the Nigerian now?
Yes, because when
if you had to
when the Israelites were being led out of Egypt, because Nigerians literally are in Egypt, somebody had to take them to the promised land. At a certain point in time, they were asking, we remember the fish we used to eat in Egypt. Take us back. Because the leadership failed to come up with quick wins. So when we are defining the vision, the government defining the vision, we should learn from the mistakes of the past.
Now, take us through those who performed, who helped the president in the last 4 years. Which ministry, stuck out for you, and how did they perform? Should they come back, or what? Tell us.
Well, when you are looking at the critical sector of the economy, I'm looking at the impact certain ministries are expected to have. If we take the energy sector, for example, the energy sector, we've degenerated. If you take the transportation sector, although the president said there will be arteries of the arteries in our transportation system will be opened up. That's exactly what he said.
Okay, which ministry is this on now?
That is the transportation sector.
Transport.
Yes,
okay.
Transport. When you look at transportation sector, there ought to be an integrated approach to the transportation sector. We should be looking at the land, sea, and the air transportation system. When you look at our network of roads in this country today, every year they degenerate because goods that ought to move, heavy goods that are supposed to move through the rails, they are moving them through the road. So to that extent, we have not achieved much in the transportation sector. I believe that there should be synergy between the transport and works ministry.
Is there any suggestion that there isn't any?
Where, for example, we are looking at the equipment you are moving through the road, for example. Heavy equipment, they are likely going to damage the roads. But if you move them through the rail system, you are likely going to prolong the lifespan of the road. So it's in the interest of the two ministries to work hand in hand.
But in terms of the power ministry now, where the ministry says that they've improved the capacity of transmission, generation, not doing bad as well. Yes, we also know the discos, have their own challenges. But how would you say that particular ministry has fared?
Well, like what I said earlier, for democracy to be properly defined, the role of the people must be recognized as a common denominator. It's what the ordinary man in the street is saying, that we determine whether they are performing or not the statistics they churn out.
Well, that's us. That's a new one because, the ordinary man, with respect to, because are you saying that we shouldn't pay any attention to those stats whatsoever, because that's what is measuring how much progress they're making, those who are executing it. Yeah. So if there's a little improvement, Certainly everybody may not feel that little improvement. So does that mean that didn't happen?
Yeah, we have to be very careful in giving credit to certain sectors. Because when you look at the energy sector, it's very crucial to the overall economy. And when we are talking of government exerting 20% of its effort in the energy sector, it's going to have a big multiplier effect on the entire economy. And that is why that sector is very, very crucial. But as of now, they are performing below par.
Okay, so
well, it's a 3-in-1 ministry: power, works, and housing. How about the other elements?
Well, the other elements, we are looking at power, we are looking at housing, and which other sector?
Works.
We are looking at
power and
we are looking at works. If you ask the ordinary man in the street, they will not give that sector presently more than 40%.
Ordinary man, doesn't that depend on the location of this ordinary man?
No, it is, and that we should avoid what I refer to as the fallacy of programmatic change. Where the leaders feel they are ordained to think for us. We are capable of thinking for ourselves. We know what is good.
But that's why we elected them. That's why we employed them.
Yes.
To think for us.
For them to be accountable, they have to listen to us. I've attended several gatherings where government functionaries are present. They do more of the talking than listening, which is wrong. There should be feedback from the people to the government. And that is the only way they can perform.
Another sector that people have talked about a lot is education. What's your take on?
Yes, you see, when you are looking at the population growth in Nigeria today, if we tie it closely to the educational sector, we'll be able to exploit the opportunities which abound in that sector. But we are not be doing much in that area. Take, for example, the issue of technical education. Technical education, if it is properly managed, will be exporting skilled professionals, skilled manpower to other parts of the world. And if you read the World Bank statistics on remittances by Nigerians resident abroad to Nigeria in 2017, it amounted to 22 billion US dollars remittances. And that is because those nationals that are resident abroad, they are contributing to the development of those economies, and we are getting something back. So if we want to profit from the incongruities which abound in our population growth, we must invest heavily in the educational sector. But as of now, we are not doing that.
Okay. Another area of interest is the Ministry of Finance. You've talked about.
No, but just a minute. On that education, I'm just wondering if you had any expectation in terms of the target, what you expected them to meet, or any particular area, improvement in access to your back funds, or reducing the amount of money Nigerians spend in universities abroad. What kind of indices are you predicating your assessment on?
Okay. For us to know the desired or the right expenditure in that sector, there must be interaction between the industry and educational institutions. When you look at the curriculum today of most of the institutions, you discover that when the graduates complete their studies, they cannot actually fit into certain sectors of the economy.
Are you generalizing? Because that's not the same across for every graduate.
Yes. But when you are saying whether I'm generalizing, you should be able to say, okay, what we are saying, is it above 50% or below 50%?
So tell us, is it?
In most cases, maybe 40%, 60% cases.
So what's the source
Those
of this?
graduates cannot fit into the industries. Take the case of Singapore, because nobody is reinventing the wheel. When Lee Kuan Yew took over the leadership of Singapore, he realized the need to focus specifically on the educational sector. And in doing that, he involved the private sector in the development. Industries that were set up were allowed to have training institutions, and there was interaction between them and the other educational sector.
So how is that supposed? How are we internalizing that here? How is the government expected to bring in the private sector other than the policies that exist to encourage private institutions to come up?
Yeah,
I think quite a number of them are coming up.
I think one of the telecom.
Universities now.
I'm coming. One of the telecom companies, in conjunction with Lagos State government, they're already doing something in that regard. But if we expand that, it will be very heady for the economy. Because if you discover there are certain companies that are located outside this country, they bring in a lot of goods. Lee Kuan Yew did not encourage that. Rather, he said, come and site the industry here, train our people, so that at the end of the day, they become employable. And that is what we should do.
Are you saying we need to copy and paste, or just take a look at what works for us and modify and adapt it?
Nobody is reinventing the wheel. And that is the essence of benchmarking. You strive to catch up with the person who is in front, not the person that is behind. So, if we are saying those countries, you saw what the president said in his speech. He made reference to Indonesia and India in his speech. The president was trying to benchmark.
Yeah, but you know that we can't do exactly what those countries do. Some of them are communist countries. We're not a communist country. So
yeah, we have to adapt. Take, for example, China. China. Most of the industries that are performing in China, internationally, they are supported by the Chinese government.
Does that mean we don't have support of the federal government at any level?
There should be support, and that has to do with the enabling environment.
There should be, or there is?
I would say some semblance of support.
How do you mean?
It's not far-reaching.
Such as which ones exactly? Because if for example, solutions and suggestions so we can improve.
Yes. When you look at the primary, it is affirmed in our constitution that the primary purpose of government is security and welfare of the people. If you are able to enhance security in this country today, a number of things will fall in line. Because money move, investment move from an unsafe environment to a safe environment.
Are you talking about, is that a policy in, or you're moving from what you want to see with those economic support programs to security? I thought they're two different things.
Well, the issue of when you look at the government, the federal government, what the president said in his speech, he said when they came in 2015, they focused on security, economy. The third one?
Anti-corruption.
Anti-corruption. Those were the triumvirate, anchoring the vision of the government. Because they are aware, if security is right, investors will come.
Yeah, but Dr. Majide.
And the economy will grow.
When you say that China supports many of the policies there, they support the investors, and you say here there's a semblance. So I wanted to understand, your thought process in terms of why do you think there's a semblance here, and which of those policies gives you, or are you predicating your submissions on, so that the authorities can look at it. If it's not properly done, then we can improve. Okay. So do you have any of such?
Yeah, for example, we have developmental banks, for example, in Nigeria, that aids the private sector.
Which one is that?
We are looking at Bank of Industry, for example. They have done a lot. We are looking at the Development Bank of Nigeria. They are just coming up. These are institutions that are in a position to assist the private sector.
Are they not doing that? Okay.
Their effort could be neutralized with the present level of insecurity and the cost of doing business accentuated by high energy costs, for example.
So it could be neutralized. Just a minute, it could be neutralized. Has it been neutralized?
Yes. Take, for example, if you enter an eatery today just to buy meat pie and take a bottle of Coke, even if you are the only person and there is power failure, they are going to put on the generator. They are not going to say because you are the only person there, they won't put on the gen. And that will impact on their overhead.
How does this connect with policy formulation and Bank of Industry's policies being neutralized?
Yes, that is why I'm saying, if, for example, you give a small and medium scale enterprise loan, for example, to enable their activities, the profit margin they are going to derive is likely going to be whittled down.
Let me understand
as a result of
but Dr.
investment.
Are you hypothesizing?
In diesel, I'm just making an example.
A hypothesis?
Yeah, just an example. It's a reality. Just carry out a little survey. You discover that this hypothesis, to a large extent, is true.
So you haven't done any of this survey. You're hypothesizing based on what you think may happen.
There's what we call action research.
Is that what you did?
Yes.
Action research?
Yes. You, as a participant observer, there are certain things. There are certain conclusions you can draw from certain practices.
So are the policymakers supposed to rely on this action research to implement policies?
They are supposed to have their intelligence network. They are supposed to have their ears on ground. They are supposed to see with their eyes. And with that, it will shaping their policies.
Isn't it also possible that these institutions of government have a lot more information than you may have right now?
Well,
having traveled all over the 36 states of Nigeria.
It's possible to have access to information. Another thing is to act or work with such information. They are two different things. If they are working with those informations, they will reflect in certain sectors. We'll be seeing some improvements, some positive movement. But when there is negative movement, we are forced to conclude that those informations are being diverted to improper ends. They are not used properly.
Does that mean that the policies are not well thought out, or maybe sabotage that some may claim or something?
There is nothing like sabotage. And I thought we were going to dwell on that when we are talking about the configuration of government officials, because the president mentioned it, that they are going to put a team of Nigerians together to enable his transformation program. He mentioned it. So maybe when we get to that, we'll be able to dwell more on that.
So if we are to look at the critical sectors that government needs to give attention to going forward? What would be your top 3?
I look at the banking sector.
Why?
More action research?
If you want to capture any country, the first thing you do is to capture their central bank.
When you say capture, that's the wrong signal. I don't understand what you mean by capture.
That is assisting us to understand the importance of that sector of the economy. If, for example, there is the country is under siege, for example, they want to control the economic power of that society. And the nerve of any economy is the banking sector. There should be focus on that sector. That should be one of them. And we are looking at the energy sector.
So focus on that sector to what end?
If you go through most of the streets today, you discover that they say, so company, this company have been taken over by so bank. They will write the reference number of the court, the reference number of the case. It's an indication that certain things are not going well. The head of any business is dependent on the head of the banking sector. The head, if a particular business is not doing well, is going to affect the level of non-performing credits in that particular bank. And if the level of non-performing credits, they are above certain tolerable level, that bank is going to run into a crisis. So you discover that the value chain of a particular bank, of a customer, is embedded in the bank's value chain, or vice versa.
Dr. Peter Omoijade is an organizational development expert. Thank you for coming on this morning. All right.